Hollow Knight's a game that I thought I'd never play, and something that I would never enjoy. It's always been on my I'll play someday list, and a game that I always thought I'd hate, but I put it always on there because one, it has such a dedicated following and people that love it. Two, I always try to take feedback from chat on like games to play and, you know, what games like, you know, are worth checking out, and that's almost always like one of the top games that people recommend. So I've always put it on there, and I've always just kind of looked at it and was like, nah, I don't think I'll ever play this. It just doesn't look my style. And that is to say, I just finished playing Hollow Knight. And this is actually me recording this a second time, because unfortunately I muted my mic the first time and the entire thing's gone. And it was literally me just talking at the camera with almost no notes other than a part about what the boss's name is at the end and some stuff like that. So I apologize. This might not be as good as my original. That said, the reason why I didn't think I was going to like it is because I don't really play platformers, and I've only ever played one Souls game, being Elden Ring. And if you've watched the Elden Ring movie, you know how that went. And this game has a reputation, or at least it's been called the Dark Souls of platformers. And it sounded like it was going to be endless grinding, impossible platform puzzles, and just being stressed out instead of having fun, which is not really what I enjoy very often. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised, and I can say confidently, that was not the case. And over time, I actually began to love it. Don't get me wrong, there was some rage moments. I'm gonna fucking... I'm gonna fucking lose my goddamn fucking mind. I trusted. I didn't trust my own math. I had it perfect. Perfect. You bitch. Sorry. I apologize. You motherfucker. No, you motherfucker. No. Why am I back up here? Sorry. But no boss felt really overwhelming. Hell, even the end boss, Radiance, didn't feel impossible by any means. I'm not going to tell you how long it took me to beat them, because I actually think I'm going to make a video like the Elden Ring movies that came out a long time ago, similarly for Hollow Knight. I think it's worth it, and I think people might enjoy it as well, because I had a good time. And so for that, I'm not going to tell you what ending I got, but I did try to do as much as I could. I'll tell you right now, actually, I guess this is a spoiler for it, I finished with 90% completion. And this week, I got a busy week coming up with Rival new season, and I got some ZZZ stuff I want to wrap up. So I don't know if I'm going to have time to go back to finish it this week, but I actually do want to go back and finish it in either my own personal time or maybe a short stream just to do it in the future. But I'm done with the playthrough. And I wanted to make this video and talk about it because maybe you're like me, where either you don't play a lot of games like this. I mean, to be fair, I'm a little bit different. I was in an Overwatch bubble for 5 years, actually longer than 5 years, because I played the game pretty much exclusively for like 2 years before I became a streamer. So that's like 2018 to 2025. So I've pretty much only been playing like hero shooters like Rivals and Overwatch for 7-8 years. But this year, actually, this past year has been my kind of an exploration year, playing games outside of what I'm used to. And I've enjoyed 95% of things that I've played. You know, I actually, now that I'm re-recording this, I don't even know if I want to include this part, but I'm going to do it anyways really quick. There was an example of a smaller indie game that I didn't really enjoy, unfortunately, which was Undertale, which also has a very cult following, almost like Hollow Knight, although I would say they're a bit different in terms of how they acts or how it interacts with the game versus the community. But you know, when I played Undertale, it was just tons of backseeing. People didn't like the way I was playing. It was like, oh, play this way, get this ending, what are you doing, do this. Hollow Knight didn't have that at all. If anything, the only thing people wanted to see was me suffer, which is you know, endearing in its own way. For example, wanting me to do Path of Pain at the end of the game, which I absolutely did not. I did do the White Palace, but that Path of Pain was just not going to be on the menu. I knew my goddamn limits, okay? Don't get me wrong, I'm no like slouch mechanically, especially on a controller, but it took me a while to kind of get going, and I knew that I was not willing to spend the next week here. But if you are someone who wants to spend the next week there, that's the thing I kind of like about this game. is even though the bosses didn't feel impossible, you can definitely tell that there's a way to ramp up the difficulty. Whether it's through DLC stuff, whether it's through the thing I saw at the end that unlocks, where it's like you can play the whole game, and if you die once, like the whole game GG's you, which like is like obviously a hardcore mode, looked kind of insane. But there was ways around everything, and as a player who isn't going to invest a ton of time to be the best Hollow Knight player, I enjoyed that. So if you're someone who's anxious about playing a game like this, you think it's not going to be worth your time because it's not going to be fun, and the point of playing games is for it to be fun. You don't want to be stressed out. I think you should give it a shot, because I think it's challenging enough to the point where you're going to get a challenge, but you also get the reward payoff of overcoming that challenge without it being a Herculean lift amount of work. Not many games can do that really well, and I think they did it pretty good. And I know Silksong comes out this week. Actually, I mentioned this, the whole reason why I'm even playing this game. Why the fuck? This is the part of having to redo this because my mic was muted the first time, which, God, I'm a fucking idiot for doing that. But the whole reason I ended up playing was because everyone's talking about Silksong. And I didn't know anything about Silksong. The only reason I even knew about it was because, like, not the last game, like, game showcases, like Xbox Showcase and whatever. There was, like, the previous one, which was, like, PC Game Awards and stuff like that. I was watching one of them, and I was bored out of my mind. I ended early because I was just like, there's no games here I'm interested in. And people kept saying, like, wait for Silksong, wait for Silksong. I was like, what the fuck is Silksong? And then 3 weeks ago, Silksong actually gets announced, and everyone goes bananas. And I was like, what is this game? I don't know anything about it. And then I was like, oh, it's Hollow Knight basically part 2. I've had that game on my like playlist. I don't know if I really want to get into it, but I had talked about it a little bit. People were excited for it just as a stream discussion. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. And so I went from a game on my to playlist that I was never going to touch. It was on there, just like your Steam category or Netflix to watch or your anime to watch list. It's on there, but you're probably never going to get there. To actually playing it and actually enjoying it. And actually enjoying it enough that I might go back either on stream or off stream and 112%ing it. I think it's 112. I don't know if it's 114, 112. I know that there's like a bonus completion part. Regardless though, I wanted to make this really quick because maybe you're like me and you've thought about playing it, and maybe you're thinking about playing Silksong. I have no idea how Silksong is. I've heard it's actually a harder version of Hollow Knight, so maybe Hollow Knight would be a good place to start, even though everyone's Silksong. Maybe take a second and play Hollow Knight instead. I know it's an older game than Silksong, but I couldn't tell that it was an older game. I think it came out in 2017. I could not have told. Like, it could have came out last week, and I would have believed you. That said, give it a shot. I think you might enjoy it, because you might just be like me and not have your horizons as broadened in games like these, and you might be in for a little bit of a surprise. I did do this in the last one, but I think I did it at the beginning, and I kind of forgot to right now. But I want to do more stuff like this, where I talk about my experience with games or news with games or whatever that's kind of going on. And this is one that's fresh in my mind. Unfortunately, the original actual OG version is gone. That's kind of on me. But if you want to see more of this stuff, let me know. And yeah, as always, I'll see you again tomorrow.